Now we turn to green energy and taxpayer waste. The Recovery Act, or the so-called stimulus plan, devoted more than $36 billion tax dollars to clean energy ideas, including electric vehicles. At last year's Global Climate Change Summit in Paris, President Obama said all that money did a lot of good.
I came into office, I prioritized clean energy. I said we're going to double our clean energy production through the Recovery Act. So we made a big investment, and it turned out that we met our goals a lot quicker than we expected.
Well, it turns out not all of the president's goals were met. Take the billions of tax dollars spent trying to put 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2015.
We begin with a success story, Tesla Motors. In 2010, Tesla got a taxpayer loan of nearly $500 million to help make this possible.
This is Model S, the world's first premium all-electric sedan.
The Model S electric vehicle. Equipped with what Tesla calls ludicrous mode, it can shoot from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. Strong sales helped Tesla pay back its government loan early. That's exactly how the Obama administration hoped things would turn out when it announced plans to jumpstart an electric car revolution in 2011.
We can break our dependence on oil with biofuels and become the first country to have 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2015.
But success hinged on spending lots of your tax money, $7.5 billion over 10 years. Some went to sweeten the deal for consumers buying electric cars like the Volkswagen e-Golf.
Took a loop through the neighborhood.
Okay.
We took one for a test drive in Boston.
If I wanted to buy this vehicle, what kind of benefits could I get?
Well, there's a $7,500 federal tax incentive, and there's also the state of Massachusetts has a $2,500 tax incentive.
So I could, in essence, get basically $10,000 off the cost of the car.
Oh, yeah.
Greg Sullivan helped root out taxpayer waste as the Inspector General for Massachusetts. Now at the Pioneer think tank in Boston, he's researched the government's electric car efforts.
The president hoped to get over 1 million vehicles on the road by the end of this year. Why were they so confident that this could be done?
I think that they hoped that the very, very large incentives would kind of start a movement, but it didn't happen. If you have a car that only gets 80 miles on a charge and it takes many hours to charge that car, it ends up costing more than a regular car. Those are all deal killers for regular people.
To get to 1 million electric cars, the White House relied on sales of 11 models. Its projections turned out to be wildly optimistic. A case in point, Fisker Automotive. In 2010, Fisker got a $500 million taxpayer loan. Vice President Joe Biden joined a big celebration at the old GM plant in Delaware, where Fisker was to start production and provide a bonanza of new jobs.
We're going to make sure the middle class has their piece of the economy.
When Fisker made the big announcement, with the state officials, federal officials, everybody was excited.
Antonio Prado is Director of Communications in Newcastle County, where the Fisker plant is located.
It didn't turn out the way everybody wanted it to.
How it did turn out was a prime example of technology not yet ready for prime time, as illustrated by the disastrous Consumer Reports test of Fisker's pride and joy, the Karma.
This is Consumer Reports' Fisker Karma. It cost us over $100,000. It is low, it is sleek, it is sensuous. It's also broken, right here in the middle of our driveway.
Fisker blamed the car's faulty lithium-ion battery. That only served to highlight another lesson in the government's misplaced faith. The bad battery was built by A123, who'd also gotten a taxpayer loan worth $249 million. Both Fisker and A123 soon went bankrupt and were bought by the same Chinese firm. And the Delaware plant remained idle.
I think it was about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years after the announcement was made that people started asking questions like, hey, when is this going to happen?
Today, it's just a 3.2 million square foot ghost factory with weeds growing through the cracks in the pavement. All those jobs never materialized. Tom Gordon is the top official in Newcastle County. He blames in part a struggling middle class for disappointing electric vehicle sales.
It costs more money to drive an electric car. They're going to be more worried about how they're going to feed their families. You're not going to sell electric cars even on the West Coast right now.
In the end, Fisker built just a tiny fraction of the number of cars the Obama administration counted on before going out of business. 2 years after Obama's announcement, 6 of the 11 relied-upon electric vehicle models had already stopped production or gone belly up, making it nearly impossible to meet the goal.
The goal was to put 1 million cars on the road, electric cars on the road by 2015. And we're about 1/3, they met about 1/3 of that goal.
There are promising developments on the horizon. Tesla and Panasonic are joining to develop a better electric car battery, and the concept of green vehicles remains hot, even if sales aren't.
It's a great goal, and they do reduce greenhouse emissions, no question. Problem is, the government got ahead of itself by giving multi-billion-dollar incentive for people to buy cars, but the cars that they were kind of coercing them into buying really weren't practical.
The Obama administration declined our interview request, but a spokesman for the Energy Department told us the U.S. will still eventually be the first country in the world to have 1 million electric vehicles on the road. This transformation, even if met later than targeted, will reduce Americans' dependence on petroleum, make transportation more sustainable, while creating jobs and stimulating economic growth. Still ahead on Full Measure, the Marine Corps War Memorial depicts one of the most historic battles of World War II. But there's a historical inaccuracy on the statue you probably never noticed. We'll introduce you to the vet who did notice next.